Hey there, and hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Love and Action Network's Deconstruction Junction. I'm Dr. Flo, not telling you what I heard, what I know. What I know is that you're loved and lovable. You've always been loved and lovable, and you're going to be loved and lovable for the rest of your days. Every day, we log online in the morning to encourage, equip, and empower dreamers of all ages, children of all ages, to use their time, talent, and treasure for good on the planet. And if you've got a dream out there that you want someone to help you believe in, if you are lacking in accountability, but you want to be in a community of support and care, we would love to share our songs, smiles, support, and shenanigans with all of you. And as you all know, on every Thursday, I am joined by the lovely and brilliantly talented Tara Praolo Studio. What's good in your neighborhood, Buttercup?
Hey y'all, I'm not sure he's ever called me a buttercup before. I'm Tara Priolo. I am your resident Black, biracial, multi passionate musician. I talk about the ish that nobody wants to talk about and push you to do the same. And happy Juneteenth to everybody Black, child. Um, and those of you, I saw this thing. It's by the Reclaimed, and I didn't bring it today, but I saw it before we got on here. She said, if you have the day off and you are a non-black person, you should use the wages that you're making today and give them to a black person that you work with. Reparations. And I thought that was a great idea. So I'll just lead with that. And while Dr. Flo is sharing this out, I'll give a little blurb. So obviously we're with Love and Action Network, and you are welcome to come into the WhatsApp communities, as well as the new Instagram broadcast channels, Dr. Flo's coaching, Poppy's spirituality, and hoodoo things with the House of Mami Wada or branding. And you're also welcome to come and sit by me for somebody called me an extraordinary singer and teacher this morning, lifting me up for Juneteenth. Anyway, so I thought I giggled. And I also thank you to Myrtle, who tagged me on that, on their post. So, anyway, happy Juneteenth to everybody Black. We would love also to have your name beneath ours for this podcast. If you are deconstructing, if you are deconstructed, if you are working and seeing the things in the world and you just need a place to come chat about it, we're all ears and all open hearts. And we'd love to have you. And you can apply to be a guest on lovedandlovable.bio.linky poop. I think I am up first. Oh, go ahead,
We
Dr. Flo.
know that you all are busy. We know that
We
you
do
all
not
are
have
working.
audio on no more. Again,
You don't? It says
no
that you
audio,
do.
no audio, baby, none. Oh wait, try again.
Hello?
Oh yes, now we have you. I think that might have just been me.
Now, I'm seeing green over here, but sometimes it fails. I was just going to say that we know that you're busy. We know that you're adulting. We know that you are caught up in the realization of your dreams. As you see, we take for about an hour plus or minus 15 minutes every week. We would love to have y'all jump in and just make your bold voice known in the world. We're not people who want to leave here with you not recognizing how we felt about life and what's going on. At its greatest revelation, we are touching hundreds of people monthly for encouragement. At the very least, we leave behind a time capsule for future generations of what we were doing in the middle of June in 2025 as the rockets red glare. And I don't think it's in the deck today. And some of them blow up. There was a huge rocket ship explosion at Starbase, Texas, like last night or night before last. Blew up, blew up. Google it.
Yikes.
Google it. We're about to go and lead into the first story. It's Tara's story, all about Adriana Smith. So powerful that I added in a second deck of it until I realized that you had already gotten to it first. Could you introduce people to who Adriana Smith is, the story and how it has been unfolding.
Welcome to my kitchen, y'all. Y'all know that, like, one of the things we do is we do this podcast as we're living. I'm making sourdough, so I have to take the lid off. But Adriana Smith is no laughing matter. Adriana Smith is a lovely young woman who was forced to, well, let me just explain it this way. Multiple levels of medical negligence and experimenting on Black bodies. And also part of the Black maternal death rate. It's very sad. She was a nurse. She went in for help. They sent her home. By the time she came back, she was septic and ended up dying. Brain dead. Announced, called to be brain dead. Now, in the state that she was in, Georgia, there are laws against abortion. Adriana was 9 weeks pregnant when she was determined to be brain dead. And instead of letting, and I might, y'all, for this one hits me really hard. Instead of letting that woman go in peace, they kept her body alive to grow the fetus that was in her. And the baby was delivered via C-section this week. And on her birthday, Adriana was taken off life support. And the baby is 1 pound, a little over 1 pound, and fighting for its life in the NICU. And that picture that Dr. Flo pulled up is Adriana with her son. And I'm crying for a lot of reasons. I'm crying because we should be able to trust the people that claim to help us. And I'm crying because this is another form of lynching. And I'm crying because half of the conversation online right now is fighting over terminology of the baby, and how it was removed from her body. And I don't think that's what we should be fighting about. I think we should be honoring Adriana's life, and I think we should be calling out how wrong it was to keep her body alive. And the only reason that they removed this baby, that they removed this fetus from her, was because her body was decaying. They kept her on life support so long against her wishes and her family's wishes because y'all think that a 9-week-old embryo has personhood. That baby may not survive. And what is it like for a baby who grew in decay and death? So I just think it's the wrong conversation to be having. I hope that this baby lives. And I hope that's Roblox, y'all. I leave it open in the background. And I hope that it's apparently snowing. I really hope that we do not forget this. And we keep it in the, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be on the front lines right now. There's a lot of stuff that needs to occupy the headlines, but I really hope we don't forget about this, because the minute that we normalize it is the minute that they purposefully put Black women and Black birthing people into comas and are medically negligent and experiment on their bodies, because that never ended. I yield.
Yeah, the mom of Adriana said she's pregnant with my grandson, but he may be blind. He may not be able to walk, may not survive once he's born. All of this, by the way, y'all, came about because Georgia has an abortion ban. The Smiths family said that Emory doctors told them that they were not allowed to stop or remove the devices that are keeping her breathing because the state law bans abortion after cardiac activity has been detected. So, for those of you who've not been following the story, they essentially just kept this woman alive as an incubator. Like they didn't care about her life; they just saw her as the carrier. We talked about this previously here. It's giving a Handmaid's Tale. It's giving a woman doesn't have right to her body in life or death. The state, to Tara's point earlier, will decide that it wants to do what it wants to do. Um, and so, yes, Tony, we are holding sacred space for all of life, and those who seek to protect it. It's kind of wild. This woman had a healthcare background and was a healer in the field and was still betrayed by the people who she was colleagues with. It's kind of nuts. Kind of nuts. And they did it in plain sight. And I'm very curious about how the child is. Transitioning now into talking about Tyler Perry and DL culture. Wanted to stop here to just say, for those of you who have not been following the story, there is a actor named Derek Dixon who was on The Oval. He is accusing Tyler Perry of sexual assault. The lawsuit is for $260 million. Derek Dixon is an actor who appeared as Dale in dozens of episodes of BET's hit political drama The Oval. Prior to that, he was on a spin-off show called Ruthless. He met Tyler Perry working for the studio at an event in 2019. He was a caterer serving. Tyler Perry picked him out of the crowd. He said he was given the role based on frequent conversations with Tyler. He's suing the billionaire for alleged sexual harassment, assault, and retaliation. He said that Perry fosters a coercive, sexually exploitative dynamic. There's a bunch of text messages that have happened. He said that the producer, Perry, initially promised him career advancement and creative opportunities, such as producing his pilot and casting him in his show, and then eventually subjected him to escalating sexual harassment, assault, and battery, and professional retaliation when Mr. Dixon did not want Mr. Perry's unwanted advances. The reason why I brought this today is because what we are seeing happen with Tyler Perry is not unique to show business. In fact, when I just read this quote about career advancement, creative opportunities, producing pilots, and casting in the show, this is the reason why, and y'all hear about it later as you do every week. This is the reason why I am self-producing and community producing Dr. Flo and the Love Experience. Because I don't want to be in an environment or an industry where you know how many people are out here wanting their pilots produced and wanting to get casted, and they are saying, I'll do anything I'll do anything to get my palette produced. I'll do anything to produce my musical theater show. I'll do anything to be back on a stage. And harmful producers put people in some weird situations. He also alleged that Perry's first sexual advances toward him occurred at the producer's Atlanta home, January 2020. In the complaint, Dixon said after drinking too much, he retired to a guest room at the Perry estate where he claimed Perry got into bed with him and touched his thighs. Perry allegedly saying to him in these text messages, "What's going to take for you to have guiltless sex? Have y'all found that yet in therapy? Um, Giving up my religious guilt, becoming a Buddhist, that's so cool. Where you came from." Unfortunately, Derek, I have friends who are in their 50s and 60s who are still dealing with that, and it's sad. You can have freedom from religious guilt and still believe in Christ. So, and then this is the thing that kept coming up. Why did that photo make me jealous? You two together. I don't know. It's just Brad. Laugh out loud. He just wanted to go for a quick walk to get his steps in, and now I'm walking to Chipotle by myself. Thick Derek. Get that Chipotle. Thick Derek. And I don't, Michael Jackson called him Christmas. Men only refer to other men as thick in very specific situations. Tony's saying laud. Tony's also saying the Boondocks episode predicted it. You know, people of the world know how DL men operate. The calling this guy out of religious guilt, having him over to your house, getting him drunk, dangling the carrot of future opportunities in the business. I mean, did you find any creeps on your ascension into professional theater and work? I found tons. I told y'all, like, I recently, not recently, but within the last few years, I've had the opportunity to work on Broadway. Subsequently got fired for speaking up for all humans, including Palestinian people. But I've had my waist like grabbed. I've had my ass grabbed. I've had hugs that were longer than okay. And I'm a dude here.
Um, I I mean, the biggest one in the opera world that doesn't affect me. A lot of the accused in the opera world often prey on men and young boys. So the biggest one in our industry is James Levine, and there's a whole case on that. Y'all can go look at it. He was the director at the Met for ages, and the Met effectively covered it up. But what I will say, I you know I never wanted to be on the biggest stages because I knew that the people on the biggest stages often were not people that I wanted to be around. um, for various reasons, whether that's personality or this kind of thing. Um, but I will also say that voice teachers, stop touching people. Please stop touching your students. I have been touched, with permission, without permission, pushed on, made to stand with someone's fist in my pelvis to quote unquote help me breathe right. Um, and yeah, so I I think unfortunately the industry hides it. And we saw this last night in the documentary we worked. The industry hides things as long as the results are gotten, right? And so oftentimes you see very high scale people like James Levine and some other voice teachers, or like Placido Domingo. I don't know if y'all know that name. He was one that preyed on women. And that's, you know, they're often in very high places, and part of the reason they're esteemed is because of their quote unquote lineage and their legacy. And it's covered up. So personally, I have not had like uh, encounters quite like that. I've had, like I said, I've had voice teachers touch me with and without consent. um Thankfully, I think that that is like being talked about. And so I think more and more voice teachers are moving towards like, why do we touch people when like it doesn't actually help them? Because that's a weird thing to do. So I'll just end with like, voice teachers, please stop touching your students with or without consent. And please, 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 y'all, if you are teaching under 18, please have cameras, make sure your students' parents are present. And that's both online and in person, right? Do not allow for the student to close their door just so mom and dad don't hear. Like, record every session. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah.
There are people out here in the world who are not owning their truths. I think about like I look at this guy and I believe victims, I believe people when they say that people made them feel uncomfortable and violated their personal boundaries. And when you look at this gentleman, Derek Dixon, he looks like a standard issue white guy. Like there's nothing so special about him um to the degree that you'd want to pay $260 million. Like I don't think any human, I don't think that sex with any human or the pursuit of any human or the flirting with any human is worth $260 million. There are people out here who will go down the block with you for $260, $20.60.
$2.60, child.
Right. So I don't understand how Tyler Perry, a notorious decades plus like known DL in the business, allegedly, folks, how the hell he gets involved in like long text messages and studio scandals with a basic looking white guy. I've seen hotter, I've fucked harder. Like, why this guy? But Tyler loves light skins. He loves the white meat. He has the black women on his shows go through like the major hell of it all. We'll keep y'all posted on what we find out about that situation. Moving on to Iran and this idea that we talked about last week that immigrants are human. Immigrants and humans have no way in being illegal because they're on the planet and they're here. I was very, very curious to hear from Tara this week on how she thinks the Iranian. Oh wow! We're pausing for Brad. Yes, tell us. Tell. This is what would they say? This is my collaborator, and she's gonna show you her bread, and you're gonna like it.
You better like it and leave
You
me a
better
nice
like it.
comment. Look, this is sourdough. She doesn't have a name. Fresh out of the oven. She is hot. We're a little burned on the bottom. Don't mind that. Look, we're going to cut her open. Oh, I get the big screen. Listen, my scoring, I'm new to this. This is only my second sourdough loaf, but I think she turned out better than the first one. Thank you so much. We have no audio.
You better say something nice about her bread or else.
Put it in the comment section.
It looks amazing. I mean, this is your first bread making experience, right?
Well, so second loaf of sourdough. I did make bread during like the height of the pandemic. Um,
So you
I
have a
mean,
knack for it. You have a knack.
yeah, I mean, like I like to putz. But anyway, sorry. Ask your question.
Well, I can, like the people of Gaza and the Iranian people are pulling flour out of the street and trying not to get their flour reserves bombed. What say you about what's happening in Iran? The ways in which America has always been in this kind of conflict that we're seeing. Do you think that we're going to? Oh, that looks lovely. Oh, the bounce. Yeah, the bounce of it is. Yeah, yeah.
I did it. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to cut it open to make sure it was done because my last one wasn't done. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. What do I think about the people? Ouch. Ouch. That's a crap. Asthma. Okay.
Do you put like olive oil and like garlic and stuff on the bread, or do you just kind of leave it alone?
It depends. I love butter. I love butter. Also, I saw Gigi make mozzarella, sun-dried tomato, prosciutto, inclusion sourdough loaf. Once I get this down, y'all,
What does that
yes,
mean? Inclusion sourdough loaf.
you put stuff in the loaf, like when you're baking it.
Oh wow, that's a whole different level.
Yes, I had to get the actual making of the sourdough down first, but it's a whole thing. Um, so I saw this post from somebody that was like, I don't know how to get people on my own side to care. Um, and they were
Inclusion
talking about the
sourdough.
Democrats. They were talking about the Democrats. Um, and I think leftists too. And I really think that we can, part of me is always like, we don't owe anybody our trauma. And unfortunately, like, the only thing that seems to make people care is the trauma of like watching these people get killed. Like, there was literally a video of a news anchor delivering the news and the building blew up. Hello? Um, yeah. I don't know how to get y'all to believe that like humans outside of your core group are humans. I think it's weird that you need convincing. I think that's weird. I think it's weird. I think it's weird.
صدایی که شنیدید فضای غبارآلوده استدیو
That's the one you're talking about where it's like she's like delivering news and then all of a sudden like things just blow up. And like how do people justify this kind of behavior? Like what do you tell your kids about the harm that like what is the lesson for kids that understand what's happening? Like
Well, I'm sure
how
it's the
do you
same.
teach this?
You tell them that person or their parents. Uh, I'm going to use the religious term. Their parents were sinners, and they have to pay for it. They deserved it because they did something bad, right? Um, they're not. It's the same lies that adults fall into believing that are just passed on to children. You know.
Oh man, this was not the adulting that I thought I was going to inherit as a 10-year-old. when I was a kid, coming to the knowledge of like how I could perhaps be someone when I grew up and contribute to society and be joyful in my art making in society. This kind of environment, while it's always been, Vietnam, uh, it was Saudi Arabia, all of these world conflicts have been happening throughout our entire lives. But I didn't expect it to take up as much mental real estate as what it does as an adult. And then to try to be one of those adults who pretends like it's not happening also makes me look quite stupid, which is a word that we're not supposed to use publicly on film anymore. But and Mama Oya agrees outside with the my spring flowers blowing in the window. Um, I don't know why we are playing society this way.
Oh, we can go right to the video with this one. No crumbs.
So do you guys remember when President Bush won the presidential election and everybody was mad because they felt like he cheated, and Al Gore was like, we want a recount, specifically in the state of Florida, and to the point where it got legally contested, and then they blocked the recount, so they never really officially got the recount, and there was like a lot of tension and division with the Bush administration and the intelligence agencies and just with people in general because they felt like this was fair and it was rigged. And then on top of that, there was like a lot of warnings we were getting at the time about terrorist attacks and how people were planning to attack us and we weren't listening. And then everybody was distracted by Bush, and Bush was doing all this stuff, and everybody was just like mad. And then like months later, 9/11 happened. And then remember last year, Trump won the presidential election. Everybody was like, this doesn't sound right. How could he have won? They must have cheated. And everybody was like, we demand a recount, but they didn't do a recount. And then he got into office, and then everything was just really chaotic, and it was a lot of division in the country, and everybody was like fighting with each other, and they're still fighting with each other to the point where the Trump administration began to turn on each other, and it was like a lot of drama. And all the while that was happening, we were receiving multiple warnings about terrorist attacks and attacks that were coming not only from prophetic voices, but also people that were actually like on the news in other countries that were trying to warn us. We saw a lot of weird things happening, but we just didn't pay attention to it because we didn't think it was that serious. And the Trump administration also wasn't paying attention to it because they didn't think it was that serious, or they just didn't want us to believe that it was just not that serious. And then Elon began to kind of like turn on Trump and say, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have even won the presidency, kind of alluding to the fact that they kind of cheated, or that he kind of like influenced the outcome of the presidential election without actually saying that he rigged it. And then Trump was kind of just like, you just mad because you can't have access no more. You been knew I was going to cut you off. Meanwhile, there's a woman in the airport that's been saying attacks are coming, and everybody looks at that woman and says that she's crazy, and our defense systems are compromised because we're so divided as a country and nobody knows who to trust. And then there was this girl on TikTok that was like wearing green and white and gold hoops who was like, we've seen this movie before, and more than likely there's an attack coming that's similar to 9/11 because of things that are happening now that were happening back in 2000 when George Bush became president.
I was gonna leave her on the screen in that face because there's no better expression.
There isn't. I also like that she like literally doesn't look at the camera hardly at all. Like she just like y'all remember? Y'all remember that time? That one time? That one time? Let me say this. No crumbs, and also like y'all history is going to repeat itself until we do something different. That's all.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. We're going to have to change the way in which we relate to each other, the ways in which our governments relate to its people, and the way the governments relate to people who they deem as othered people. Crazy. I've been hearing a lot on Clubhouse, X Spaces, and also online about false flag operations. And for those of you who don't know what that is an act that is designed to appear as if it's being carried out by someone other than the actual perpetrator. There are people who believe, running the risk of being canceled here, there are people who believe that 9/11 was a false flag to bring the community back into harmony around patriotism that allowed for them to surveil us in ways that we were not necessarily open to prior to 9/11. We have talked about a company called Palantir for many weeks privately and publicly. Just follow the work of Palantir and what they are doing to try to put humans and all of our data under one file for every citizen. It will allow them to be able to see our blood type, credit score, which is some white people shit, educational credits, financial documentation, political leanings. All of this will be under one, your social footprint, all under one umbrella. And people would say, well, then, why is that a big deal? Well, if someone can look at a Palantir score on you and decide whether or not you are deserving of human rights, that's going to be a problem. And we see in China that people's technology are tied into their profiles, and people have green, yellow, and red status depending on how they are operating and functioning within their society. What happens when it's no longer visibly black versus white, but like what we saw happen in New York City in the height of the pandemic? People were refused the ability to eat in certain restaurants because they weren't vaccinated, and that created this whole political climate in New York City. I was in New York City full time in the heat of the pandemic. That's probably what caused me to leave, because I'm like, talk about being in a crazy situation within a crazy situation. So we had to make those changes, but we are moving into a space, and a lot of adults around Tara and I do not want to talk about it, but we are being segmented based on our commitment to human rights. And don't pretend like it's not you, and don't pretend like it's not going to be orchestrated. I think a lot of the ICE stuff, and I think we have a slide about this later, but I think a lot of the ICE stuff is due to psychological operations to instill fear and paranoia in the people. And we raise clips like this weekly in our podcast to just let humans around us know, and that also the global watchers to know that we're not fooled by any of the bullshit. We're very aware of what's happening here. And unfortunately, a lot of people will just like sheep to the slaughter. They're going to walk right into it, Sarah, pretending like they didn't know any better. And in some instances, they don't.
Yep.
Wanted to give a moment to say rest in peace to Duchess Dior. For those of you who are not familiar with the Duchess Dior story. Yes, ma'am.
We got to be back on the deck. We're still on TikTok.
Coming back to the deck.
Duchess Dior.
Duchess Dior. For those of you not following the story, influencer Duchess Dior found dead after post pleading for help. The husband shot himself as cops closed in. A social media influencer was found dead in her home after posting an ominous message begging for help, with her husband killing himself as police closed in on him hours later. Zaria Khadija Carr, 27, was found dead in her home in Twin City, Georgia, about 80 miles northwest of Savannah, around 9:30 p.m. Saturday after police responded to a domestic disturbance. Okay. Just over 3 hours prior, Carr had posted a desperate plea for help for the 35,000 followers on her influencer Facebook page, where she went by Duchess Dior. I really don't know what to do, reads Duchess Dior's final post shared around 6 p.m. Saturday, but I need help before I lose my life or freedom. My kids need me. Her husband, Shamarcus Jamil Carr, a dog breeder known as the Frenchman online, was nowhere to be found when the cops arrived, and Zaria's 2021 Dodge Challenger was missing. The vehicle was located some 80 miles to the south in Wayne County just before 11 p.m., but when Wayne County Sheriff's deputies tried to stop it, Carr shot himself before they could take him into custody. Now, the thing that they're not talking about, at least yet in this article, and I wanted to highlight, was that this was an online influencer couple. She was previously a corrections officer who worked in the same area as the guy that she eventually quit her job to fall in love with and to build a life with. their whole brand was built around arguing online. As someone who has had a period of time arguing with their partner online, I can let y'all know it never takes the drama down to have those arguments on TikTok, Facebook, public spaces. It always adds fuel to the fire. I've never had a better argument with it being live streamed. And we live stream a lot and used to more. They were arguing on separate Facebook lives and starting to reveal pieces of each other's personal lives. He was revealing that she had given him herpes, that she had had an HIV scare. They were seeking to use their live streams on this particular evening after she was asking for help and support, saying that I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to leave with my life. They began to air each other out. I've seen the footage. I was not there live. She had one of her hey girlfriends on the phone, kind of egging it all along. He's on a live revealing that she has given him STIs and that she is, quote unquote, a hoe. But then she says, well, since you're going to air me out, I'm going to tell everybody about Odie. The internet began to speculate, well, who is Odie? And even people in the room were trying to speculate who is Odie. Was Odie perhaps a DL lover of this gentleman when he was in prison? Was Odie a friend that she had fucked, and cheated on him with? Like, lots of speculation. It turns out that Odie's actually a person that he set up and had killed and got off on the charges. So for her to say the name Odie in the live stream and someone telling about Odie, essentially she was saying, I'm going to tell them that you killed your friend and got off for it. You start hearing him in the background after she just said the word Odie. Oh, you must want to die today. You're going to die tonight. And he attacked her on the live. Camera goes blank. But they eventually found her body. They were saying that she was stabbed or shot. It looked all like, and I think the reports have not deviated from blunt force trauma. Like he just knocked her down, killed her, and then took her car and went on this wild chase that extended until 11 o'clock at night. What's the lesson here, folks? Do not pick and surround yourself with toxic people. Do not get into arguments with toxic people on the internet, on live streams. And don't seek to embarrass someone who potentially has nothing to lose. People who have nothing to lose or are in these kinds of lifestyles will end your life just because they have nothing better to do. Because the Frenchman clearly had nothing better to do. He had nothing to live for. Did not find her kids and family credible witness to let her live. And so I brought this week because in the seeking of attention, because the chat section, I mean, we've had Tony in here today. We have frequent parts of our core that come to Clubhouse. I can't get a comment section to go up. What is happening? Like, there were hundreds, if not thousands of people tuned into their drama. And then she died. Those people are going to find another online influencer or someone else to pay attention to that's in an equally toxic situation. We've seen autistic adults being abused on TikTok. We've seen domestic violence. We've seen child abuse. We've seen all these things. These are the things that people get popular for. And then imagine having the thing that you get popular for being the thing that ultimately kills you online. What say you about online culture and getting famous for toxic shit?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that there's a belief, and it's not an unfounded belief, that the algorithms promote rage bait, and they promote rage, and they promote violence. What I would say, I think, is be very conscious that you are not playing into that, because the way, like, there's a very, and this is why I don't watch a lot of comedy. And Dr. Flo and I were just having this conversation the other day. There's like, the reason that I don't watch a lot of comedy, in particular, like dark, quote unquote, dark humor, is because a lot of it turns out incredibly toxic. Like, the people that are doing it end up in these horrendous situations. And it's kind of the same here. Dr. Flo often says, the way you are in one area of your life, you are in everywhere of your life. And so even if it is, my point is, even if it is just a joke, right? Or like you guys are putting on fights to get attention, at some point that becomes your reality. And then we have things like this that happen. And I think I just think it's tragic. I think that so I'll bring up another one. She didn't die, but Kayla Malik is a young woman who, this was probably a couple months ago now, came out onto the internet and said she had survived a domestic violence situation for 9 months, and she had left him, and this person ended up being a TikTok influencer. And I've seen this a couple times on TikTok. And she just won a lawsuit against him. And I believe he's in jail now. But if you go and you watch that whole story, it's like, we are, to me, we're seeing more and more of these stories because people are having trouble delineating between what's real and what's not real. And I think that it's because a lot of these situations become real, right? Like, yeah, sure, he playfully calls you a slut on a live. At some point, that's going to come to fruition, and it's going to be not a joke. It's going to be real, right? Yeah, sure, you guys are play fighting, right? There's another one. She's a mom of 5 now, but like, everybody thought it was so funny that he slapped her hand on this video of her trying some foo-foo. And now everybody's like, oh my God, we saw the signs, right? He's in jail for something else. But like, that's the kind of stuff that, like, you know, to me, like, he did, this guy didn't just kill her out of the blue. The Frenchman didn't just kill her out of the blue. And she's not to blame for bringing up Odie. That situation, they're fighting, there was always domestically violent. Just because the watchers didn't recognize that or played into it in a certain way, like, haha, that's so funny, you guys are just putting on a face. Like, we really need to, as a society, learn how to differentiate between the two. And that's what I'll say on that. And it's tragic that she lost her life.
Yeah, often we do we're a little too late, to the situation. It's kind of like nobody on the phone with her and no one online that I saw was saying, like, put the phone down and like take a breath. It just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until someone ends up dead. I don't want to fight with anybody on that level at all. Speaking of fighting with people for freedom and inclusion, happy Juneteenth, everybody. How is Juneteenth landing on you today, Tara Praolo?
You know, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I think there's a little too much discussion that white people or allegedly white people are taking to heart of, like, resting and being asked to, like, not do things. And that's resulting in a lot of inaction. And that's why I said I'm putting out challenges this year. Like, I'm asking non-Black people to post about Black people on your page, to get Black people paid, to amplify their stuff like on your feed, because there is so much, and this is the same thing we were just talking about. There's so much bystander nature, right, in our culture right now. There's so much like, oh, somebody else will say that. Somebody else will share Amanda Seales. Somebody else will share Toussaint Morrison. Somebody else will share Dr. Flo. Somebody else, like, there's way too much bystander culture. And just because, and we've seen this sort of with the protests, like, and parades. Just because Black people are sitting down does not mean that y'all need to sit down. Like, just because Black people aren't educating you and doing all the things that you've come to expect does not mean that you get to sit down, because at the end of the day, racism is not Black people's problem. It ain't our problem. It's your problem. You created it. You got to figure out how to talk to your people about it. And lastly, I will just say that, to me, Juneteenth always lands kind of in an interesting way, because I want to be really joyful about the progress. Like, I want to celebrate the progress. I want to be. However, I'm very understanding that we went from one form of slavery into another. And no one is free until we are all free. And that starts with Black people. And so I think there's sometimes a little bit too cavalier of an attitude from non-Black people on Juneteenth when the world is what it is. Yes. How is Juneteenth for you today? On this day?
Man, I feel the pressure of, like, not in like a Black fatigue kind of way, but I was made hyper aware of my difference in society at a very early age. My father was one of those people who really, really believed in the stark contrast of white humans and Black humans. And so, from going into a store with, keeping my hands in my pocket so I didn't look like I stole something, to being told to never disrespect a white person because it could endanger me, like, all of this shit has just been running as a tape for well over 30 plus years. And the bitch is tired. I'm tired of walking around in life with a certain assigned paranoia and vulnerability that doesn't apply to everybody who looks like me, just those who subscribe. So I'm not sure if you mentioned this because I was over applying for some future apartments and locations to live in. And this holiday is all about the fact that emancipation and freedom had come to Black people way before they were told. Juneteenth is symbolic. Did you say this already? Juneteenth is symbolic of the ways in which the news of liberation and the news of freedom often takes its slow time to actually ripple through society. Have Black and queer people, have biracial people been free technically for a long time? Yes. Do we feel its effect? Do we feel its ripple? Do we feel the opportunity? Depends on environment, depends on open-hearted people, depends on the level of empathy in any environment, whether or not we're going to feel that freedom or not. So, yes, take the day off if you have it. Celebrate your freedom as a Black person, especially if you are a descendant of an enslaved person. And just know that one holiday one observation once a year is not going to do for us what we really need. What we really need is equitable living, equitable access to the ability to earn, restorative justice in the form of reparations on an economic level, like an opportunity for Black people to just be happy, healthy, and free without the struggle that's built in from othering people, and to making them feel like their rightful place is to be enslaved, even in our present society. And so Juneteenth is always funny because it's kind of like I feel the same way about Juneteenth that I feel about Pride Month. Am I supposed to be extra gay or extra Black today because we're celebrating it? Or yeah, it's wild. It's wild out here.
All right, we've got ICE. I'm going to flip it and make it big. I put all of them on one slide. Basically, the news this week is I believe the protests are still going on in LA and other cities. We had the No King's Day, which I never heard what the action was after that. But anyway, hopefully it was something. So the latest, this was, yesterday or 2 days ago, is that this representative, Brad Lander, was taken by ICE. And when you watch the video, I didn't link the video because I forgot, but when you watch the video, like, he's holding on to a gentleman that ICE is trying to take. These are unidentified people, right? They're wearing like jeans and vests and masks, right? ICE is always in masks. And they're trying to take this gentleman, and Brad is asking, where is the judicial warrant? And he just keeps asking this question. And so ICE proceeds to separate these two men and place Brad under arrest. And once again, I think we said this about the senator that was arrested as well. Like, where all these people are filming, there's more than just ICE here. You don't see a lot of the people in this particular video, but like, asking where they're taking him is not as great of an action as learning to de-arrest people. Like, what I wished had happened. So like I said, Brad had a hold of this gentleman that they were trying to take. And everyone else that was not ICE should have grabbed onto the two of them, right? Like, the culture of like backing away and deciding that the thing to do is to film, like, that is such a passive action. And yes, it is needed. However, it's also needed, like, not everyone needs to film the same thing. It is also needed for people that are going to take more action, right? Actual physical action. And then the second slide here is just something that I saw the other day. And it's just a reminder that, like, while the Democrats and the Republicans are not the same, that the Democrats have historically funded ICE and have been very participatory in deporting people and creating ICE and making ICE what it is. And there are a lot of people that are taking that bystander approach that's like, well, if Kamala had been elected, then we wouldn't be here. Trust y'all, people were deported under Biden. People were deported under Obama. People were deported. Like, people have been deported by Democrats. And if they wanted to fix it, they would. Okay. And just look, 2021, Democrats fund ICE. 2022, Democrats break funding record for ICE. 2023, Democrats break funding record for ICE. 2024, Democrats break funding record for ICE. And
What's
now we're
that
here,
mean? Break funding record.
meaning they put more money into ICE than ever before in the budget for ICE.
Louise, while pretending to be like the party of the people and of the working class people and to uplift. Like, what
Right.
is that all about?
Right. It's to win the elitist game, right? So there's that. That's ICE this week. Like I said, they're still taking people, they are still deporting people, they are still detaining people, they are still kidnapping people off the street. They are not allowing Congress people to enter their facilities, which is not legal at all. It's not legal. And they're modern day slave catchers and Gestapo, is what ICE is currently. And they're not even brave enough to show their face when they do it. So
That's the part I hate. I hate that, like, if you're going to snatch somebody off the street and send them to El Salvador, at least do it with your whole chest. The cowardice of these masked and sunglass wearing ICE workers is, it just seems like a um, weird way to operate, and we have to call out the weirdness every time we see it. Happy Pride Month, everybody. The only reason why I bring up this slide is because there are people out in the world who are still being bullied for being different. Almost every day online, I get bullied for being colorful and exemplifying and expressing my Black boy joy. I don't know why you all are so hell bent on being miserable cunts. That's what they would say in England.
it just caught me off guard. That was not, I thought you were going to say miserable people. And then
Yeah, I don't know why. My inner English, I heard someone say that like 15 years ago. One of my English friends. I don't know why you all are committed to this lifestyle, and I know that you're in pain. And one way to fix the hurt of being in pain is by honoring who you are unapologetically. This is who I am. This is who I choose to love. I may have had a religious upbringing. I may come from a conservative family. I may live in a community where no one understands me. And, we talked about it earlier, like Poppy Water, we're the only happy Black gay couple that we know in this geography. And while we're not trying to push our lifestyle or our attractions or anything like that onto other people, it's important to acknowledge that some people don't feel free inside to express themselves and to become who they want to become. So, to all of you out there, whether you are lesbian, bi, transgender, gay, intersex, asexual, aside, no matter how you are presenting in the world, just know that we are supportive of you and want to see you happy, healthy, and free this month and in every month to come. We are also asking for ceasefire. And as it relates to pride, ceasefire in your heart. Ceasefire in the hearts of all of us who have a dream that we want to see break free. Some of you all know about the love revival that I am holding that's in the heart of every human on the planet. And we are the only ones that don't want to let that love pop out. Tara brought some slides today. She's getting her baby. We're kid friendly here. Sophia Samara says Israel bombed a hospital in Iran. 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 Like, we cannot stop talking about the fact that harm is being caused and humans can stop it. Remember, bombs don't kill people. The people who send the bombs are killing the people. Guns don't kill people. People pulling the trigger on these guns kill people. We have a responsibility, a moral obligation, I feel, to protect those who may not have voice because their internet's being shut down. While our government and its officials try to make a decision on whether or not they want to honor life. They'll keep a black woman on life support to take her baby, but they won't stop dropping bombs overseas. Make it make sense. Zeli Amani says entering a world war to end genocide is one thing. Entering a world war to keep a genocide going is another. And then Danny K. Politics says breaking. China advises citizens to leave Israel immediately. What is that all about?
Listen, it was just so I know that across Iran, right? 47 is requesting that they all evacuate, but I thought it was very interesting because this whole thing, if you like dive deep into it, most countries in the Middle East are essentially proxy states to the quote unquote global powers, the main global powers: China, Russia, US, Britain, right?
BRIC countries versus the G7.
Right. So when we look at it like that, I think it's just very interesting to watch which countries tell people to pull out of which other countries, So
You think that China is going to attack isn't real?
no, I think that China thinks that isn't real is going to lose and get clobbered.
By all of the BRIC nations coming together to defeat them. It wouldn't be just one. It would be BRIC. It would be Brazil, Russia, India, Indonesia, and China against the other faction that was just today at G7 a couple days ago, rolling their eyes at Mein Trump.
Right.
Where do we go? I'm looking for places to live and community to build in and to grow in, and people on the opposite side of the planet are starving. And how do I hold it all?
Well, we have to hold it in community. There's a comment on one of my posts that I need to get back to that is asking essentially, because I had said, a lot of this work can feel lonely. And the person was like, well, do we give ourselves, like, do we eradicate that in ourselves, or do we do it in community? And this is where I'm like, that is the individualism of capitalism talking, right? The idea that like we have to individually hold all of the horrors in the world, as opposed to having conversations with a larger network, right? Because like I know people who are much more closely connected to, like, they're Palestinian or they're Egyptian or they're Iranian, right? Like, or they're from Iraq. Like, I know people from those places, and because I know them, I know that I cannot ask them to also hold certain other things, right? Because that issue is particularly affecting them individually, which is why we need community to hold all of it. We cannot hold all of it individually, and we should not be we should not be told that we have to. In the same way that we come here and Dr. Flo's bringing different. You're on this side. Dr. Flo is bringing topics, and I'm bringing other topics. Right? We may or may not have known about those topics in the global internet and news cycles, right? But obviously, we are each caring about them for either different reasons, or we're caring about something else more in those moments. And that is okay. That is why we have community. Once again, we cannot individually hold the pain of 9 billion people. We cannot. That is an impossible task. It is an impossible task, particularly when we are being terrorized and we are often, in most countries, in abusive relationships with our governments, with
Yes,
the
I
people
hear
in
you.
power.
And who is having mercy on the people? Like someone right now is looking for food actively. Someone right now is actively looking for clothing. Someone's actively looking for shelter. And I call over to the local Salvation Army to ask about resources and deposit assistance and all of the things needed to help people rise and to build. They say, who are you and where are you calling from and why do you need to know this information? So what's going to happen here? Do you think that it's going to implode, or do you think the government's going to acquiesce and actually serve and help the people?
I think that, like we learned in a room last Saturday, which I'm actually kind of sad that I'm going to miss the Saturday's room, but we learned in a room that some people believe that this will be more of a technological warfare rather than like bombs falling. Even though there are bombs falling, we're not acknowledging that, right? There are bombs falling right now across the globe. But I say this carefully because I think, and this is what Jean Lee was talking about in this video that I watched, and I'll try to link it somewhere. But I think there is this. The statement is revolution is going to look different than the violence that those in power have taught us. And that's not me saying violence will not happen. That is not me saying that we should not have access to violence. That is not me being a pacifist. But it is also, I think, this idea that everything needs to burn. And I believed this for a long time, y'all. Like, we just need to burn everything down and start again. Like, we need to physically overtake the government, right? Is probably not reality. It's probably not reality. And so do I think that like the government is going to back off? No. I think that people in power are going to continue to try to terrorize, but I think the people, as you've been talking about class consciousness and you've been talking about sort of these other like little indications of hope, right? Little windows. There's the cue. Little windows of hope. Windows of hope. Na, 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 na.
Light on every problem.
Yes. There's little windows of hope that tell us that when the people band together and the people choose to be governed by something other than the government ceases to have power. Right? The government only has the power that we give it. So, and this is, the last thing I'll say is like, this is where we get into when people tend to get frustrated when you say voting is not enough, right? Because the voting is the thing that people think is enough to change the government. But you cannot reform a government that is seeking what our government is seeking, what colonialism is seeking, right? We cannot reform it by voting. So there must be another action after that. There must be several actions after that. And so the voting is the thing that maintains the power of the current government, right? That's why we have democracies. Democracy. That's how it preserves power, the illusion of the power to the people via voting, right? So when we collectively decide we are no longer giving power to this government, and some say it's 3.5%, that's the 50-50 one. They believe that if we reach 3.5% resistance, then the government will fall in whatever that resistance looks like. But we're the ones giving it the power, the same way that we give the dollar bill the power, right? That's the thing. Like, not to victim blame, because again, I think we're in an abusive relationship with those in power, but also just to say that, like, we can, that's why we do this podcast. We can look inward and figure out why we are having the reactions to material things that we have. And I think that will change the course even more than, like Olympus has fallen and they bombed the White House and da 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 da. Like, it is not going to look like that, y'all. And I love that movie, okay? Because Gerard Butler, let me tell you.
Are you a fan of old school Gerard, not the new white faced?
Yeah, no, and it is Gerard, right? Olympus has fallen. Who's in that movie? First of all, it was back in 2013. Hello?
Right.
Yeah, it's Gerard Butler. Yeah, he was a cutie back in the day. He was a cutie.
Beautiful Mind Gerard.
I never saw Beautiful Mind, but sure, I'll go with it. He's cute. I listen. I ain't seen anything with him in it lately, but yeah. Anywho,
Y'all, my Love Revival and Academy is coming to a town near you. I'm looking for a new base to incubate this dream. I really believe in the good report and the open doors that are going to come very, very soon to bring this experience of inner expression and joy and hope and love into communities. Stay tuned, because I have a feeling that life is going to be coming at us fast, but our hope and love moves faster. So just stay tuned for how this is all going to unfold. Even while I've been sitting here online with you all, I've been applying to apartments and opportunities throughout where I am locally in North Carolina and also throughout the country to just see where that window of hope actually is and how I can, we'll just say, jump in it instead of jump out of it today. No trigger warnings for the people. We've had a rough week. We are still supporting Black artists all over the country and all around the world. Our furthest reach is encouraging into places like Nigeria. Fridays on our platforms and beyond, we are committed to promoting Black artists. We're going to provide their donation links and what they most need in the moment. I, as part of this program, am soliciting your prayers and warm vibes and a belief in open doors as well, for what Poppy and I want to build through the Love Experience and Community Academy programming. Even if you all are listening and you cannot give monetarily, consider free options like sharing the content of these artists, liking their post, commenting and engaging, saving their information to recommend it to other people. Nominating artists are also promoting them on your own platforms. Tara and I are people who have given our platforms over to the network and other artists of all varieties just to see a hopeful message rise. And we're grateful to be partnering with all of our artists and each other in these endeavors. I am also bringing on people with unique talents and diversity to help us celebrate the power of love through music, theater, and art. If you're interested in working on the Love Experience and digging in deeper into those money-making opportunities, because Lord knows we need it in order to have food, clothing, and shelter, just let me know by applying and or auditioning at lovedandlovable.bio.link, lovedandlovable.bio.link, lovedandlovable.bio.link. Tara, tell these folks about blackening the canon and what you're seeking to do in that arena. We didn't talk about Rosafina today, but what are you doing and how do you seek to set the people free?
Yeah, so I actually did part of my Juneteenth post for non-Black people is to learn and or post any genre, a piece by a Black person, a piece by a Black person. Um, you know, one of the main things is for people to be able to see themselves the uh, inside of the industry, inside of the music that they're singing, and I am seeking to make sure that it doesn't take until people are 23 to sing a piece by a Black person. I think that's ludicrous when we have hundreds of years of classical music by Black people. I think it's ludicrous that it is hard to find productions by Black people put on. And so I am seeking with both my albums and Blackening the Canon to change that and to hopefully get more recordings and more of these pieces out into the global network, which I guess if I'm going to release in June, I got to get my butt together and start promoting. So it might be July, but it's also Black Music Month, y'all. So and Piper almost just closed my compy. So just keep in mind that you can post Black music whenever, and it is actually really great to amplify and move that on. Hang on, Pipey. I'm almost done.
We
Closing thought.
celebrate Black artists and we love Black artists of all varieties, the classical kind, the musical theater kind, everybody who's seeking liberation and expression. We are really proud to support ourselves in this work, but also to let that flow out into other people. It looks like Blackening the Canon. It looks like Dr. Flo, the Love Experience. It looks like community academies. It looks like Adopt a Black Artist. It looks like raising kids that want to close computers and take over the castle. We have lots going on in our world professionally and also personally, but we will not stop speaking up for the people and speaking up for our dreams and taking that hour and a half of time to just say, like, yo, everyone's not talking about what it means to be alive in these times and to overcome these challenging DLs and bombs and all of these things going on. But we will put our stake in the sand and the soil and say, we are here, we are loved and lovable, we're worthy of all of our dreams coming true, not only for ourselves, but for those that we serve. And I do believe that everybody in this life is called to serve someone and something to make the world better. I think that we would feel better. We would feel more proud of ourselves in this society if we gave more from our heart. I'm not talking about your money. I'm talking about your empathy. I'm talking about your time, talent, and treasure towards what's encouraging towards people, what makes people feel capable with the tools they have, and also feeling empowered in their heart. So for those of you who have made it this far through the podcast taping today and are also listening over on Substack and Apple Podcast and Google Podcast, I truly hope that you feel empowered. We didn't come here to call out anybody solely. We came to also call you into a higher vibration of hope. And you can let go of the hopelessness today. This idea that things are not going to work out is not necessarily true. You just got to keep loving yourself, loving the people, and showing up. And hopefully we gave you a bit of a positive example about what that looks like. Thank you always for holding space for love and watching today. Tara Praolo Studio has openings as it relates to blackening the canon and elevating your brand and your business and your voice. I am accepting clients who want to have accountability services and get their dreams realized in a true practical way. Poppy Water is gearing up to launch spaces that elevate women and femmes in addition to branding folks in the world and that storytelling. So check us out. Terra Parolo Studio at Andre and the Flow, Poppy Water 33 on all platforms. Lots of meetings scheduled for the rest of the week to increase the winds of change. And yeah, wherever you are, stay in your power, stay in your joy, stay loved and lovable.